Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. So it is July, which means we are midway through the year, and that means that it is time to have a mid-year book freakout. However, not only is it time for that particular tag, but the lovely Melinda over a Web of Stories created her own mid-year tag called the 6 Down, 6 to Go. And so I still wanted to do the mid-year book freakout tag as tradition, but I decided to mix in some of those questions with some of Melinda's. So we have a bit of a mishmash, a little bit of a Franken tag going on here about what our progress has been at 6 months through the year. I hope neither of the tag creators mind that I have mixed up the questions together. There were just some questions from the mid-year book freakout tag that I didn't want to be without, and I also wanted to honour Melinda's new tag. Question number 1, how many books have you read so far this year? Do you have a yearly reading goal, and if so, how have you been doing with it? So at this current point in the year, I'm actually filming on the 8th of July, I have read 72 books. I can say that when we got to the end of June, I had read 68, and this year is the first year that I have actually set myself a 100 book goal. So I am well on my way to completing that. Question number 2 is, what have been your most read genres so far this year? Now, according to Storygraph, my main 5 genres have been historical fiction, pretty standard for me, romance, also standard, contemporary, literary, which sometimes is there and sometimes not, and then history, so non-fiction history. I will say I would prefer my non-fiction history reading to be a little bit higher, and more often than not, a genre that is on here is classics, and that isn't anywhere near on this list. I always say that my typical genres are historical fiction, history non-fiction, romance classics, and contemporary. Another thing that I noted is that so far this year I have a split of 73% fiction and then 27% non-fiction, and typically I would like my non-fiction to be a third of my reading, if not higher. In an ideal world it would be a 50-50 split, but I know that I can read fiction a little bit quicker than non-fiction. But yeah, I do wish my non-fiction reading was a little bit higher. A question that both of these tags share is the best book that you've read so far this year, and one that comes from the mid-year book freakout tag is the best sequel that you've read so far this year. And actually my answer is the same for both questions, and that is that I just can't get over Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is the second prequel to the Hunger Games series, looking at the games of Haymitch Abernathy, the 50th Hunger Games, the second quarter quell, and I absolutely adored this. I just thought it was a wonderful addition to this series, great insight into this character that we know and love, but getting a chance to see what he was like before he was truly as jaded and desolate as we see him in the original series. Question number 4, have you noticed any changes in your reading, such as how you read, format, etc.? So I've actually spoken about this in a separate video, but something that I'm trying to make more of a goal for my reading is to read a little bit of plays, poetry, essays, short stories, just things that are not typical prose fiction or non-fiction. And I feel like just doing a little bit of that every day is going to be a real boost to my reading. That's not to say it's not a challenge. Like right now I'm in the middle of show week, and to be honest with you, there just isn't time. Like when I come back from doing a show, the last thing that I want to do is sit and read my poem and my play and my essay and my short story collection. But I feel like outside of busy times in my life, this is going to be such a beneficial thing for my reading. Question number 5, do you have any projects in progress? So something that I have mentioned intermittently on my channel is my favourites reread project. I really want at some point this year to be able to do a video where I talk about my favourite books of all time. That is something that just remarkably I've never done on this channel after 5 years. But what I wanted to do was to reread all of those presumed favourites all in a row, so I can just really quantify them in my mind, work out in order, and you know, do some of these books deserve to be on that list. Another project is my ongoing Shakespeare project, which is not to read all of his plays, though that is something that I do want to do, but to read, watch, listen to various things, books, plays, TV, film, where Shakespeare the man is depicted as a character, because I want to do a video where I discuss all sorts of different depictions of Shakespeare. This has been a project that's been ongoing for about 2 years, and I have slowed down on it, but I still have it as a goal. Question number 6, have you discovered any new authors, whether they are new or new to you? It's interesting, I've read quite a lot of new to me authors, but I haven't actually read more than one book from any of them. So you've got people like Ferdia Lennon for Glorious Exploits, Rosanna Pike for A Little Trickery, Rachel Blackmore for Costanza. I really enjoyed these authors, but I haven't read any more of their works. Next question is, have there been any disappointments? And I would say probably 2 books would be disappointments. They are not by any means the worst book that I read so far this year, but ones that I had higher expectations for and they just didn't live up to it, and that is The Husbands by Holly Gramazio and Dissolution by CJ Sands. them. Both of these I had heard really great things going into them and just didn't live up for me. I am still considering reading follow-up books in the Dissolution series, the Matthew Shardlake series, but I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be worth it for me. One of the questions coming from the mid-year book FreakOut tag is biggest surprise, and for me, I've mentioned it multiple times, but that is definitely Ultra Processed People by Chris Van Tullochen. I was expecting this to either be like really dry or boring, or it was going to be very preachy, it was going to be very judgmental. This is a book that is all about ultra processed foods, ultra processed ingredients, and how they are so pervasive in our food landscape. I thought this was going to be very much shaming people for their food choices, but actually it isn't that at all. It actually is very graceful about, you know, about individual people and how it is actually food corporations and governments who are not regulating these corporations and are making it so that having an almost all ultra processed diet is the only affordable, accessible thing for most people, and how damaging that is to people's health. So that was definitely a pleasant surprise. Next question is new release that you haven't read yet but want to, and I'm presuming for this that it is new releases that have already come out rather than ones that are coming later in the year, as there is a separate question for that. For me, it would probably be Sceptred Isle by Helen Carr, which is a history of the 14th century, The Dandy by Peter Anderson, and No Ordinary Deaths, A People's History of Mortality by Mary Ponsonby. A lot of really interesting histories have been coming out over the last few months, and I'm kicking myself I haven't got around to them yet. And then following up from that, most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I have 3 for you. Lionheart by Dan Jones, I'm very excited about. It's the final book in the Essex Dogs trilogy, and I can't wait to see how Dan Jones closes out this series. There is also How to Lose a Lord in 10 Days by Sophie Irwin. I have previously loved her Regency romances, A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting and A Lady's Guide to Scandal, and so I'm really keen to pick up this Regency twist on the How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days film. And then finally Boudicca's Daughter by Elodie Harper. I previously adored her Wolf Den trilogy, and I am so keen to get back into her writing with this take on the Iceni trope. Next, I am going to do the question from the mid-year book FreakOut tag that I think is the most maligned, but I am a fervent defender of it, and that is newest fictional crush. Every single year I see people rolling their eyes at this question, and people scoffing, turning their noses up and just being like, oh, I'm just too serious a reader to have a fictional crush, how immature. To which all I can say is, dear lord, what a sad little life, Jane. Fictional crushes are a great fun thing. And I am delighted to present to you my fictional crush for this year, and it is Aidan Valentine from First Time Caller by BK Borison. He is a radio host for a love and relationships program called Heartstrings. He gets a phone call live on air from a young girl who is trying to matchmake her mother. Her mother discovers what her daughter is doing, picks up the phone and is all flustered and embarrassed, but she and Aidan end up having a conversation about her love life. They have a real banter and rapport, and his producer ends up inviting Lucy to become a regular feature on the show, where Aidan is trying to matchmake Lucy with her perfect man. And of course, along the way, they realise that actually her perfect man might in fact be Aidan. And I just loved Aidan. He was very swoony. He was so lovely and kind. He gets on well with children. He's sweet, he's funny, he's dependable. What more can you ask for? Next question is most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. While I'll give a nod to A Little Trickery by Rosanna Pike or Costanza by Rachel Blackmore, actually the book that I really want to shout out is this absolutely stunning edition of Emma by Jane Austen. I am not typically one for sprayed edges, but these, it's just a thing of beauty, and like it's taking everything in me not to buy all of the books in this series. I've definitely got my eye on the Wuthering Heights one. I don't need it. I don't need it. But this was a little bit of a birthday treat to myself, and I think was a good investment. Do you have any other yearly goals you want to update? So looking back on my 2025 goals, I had some bookish and booktube goals. So number 1 being doing monthly vlogs, which is something that I am doing. I'm not tending to do a lot of like sitting down and speaking to you kind of vlogs or like chatting on the go, but I'm doing a lot of like little moments in my life with music over the top. Doing monthly roundups or wrap-ups rather than seasonal, something that I am doing. Monthly anticipated releases, also something that I've started implementing. One of my goals was I would love to get to 3 videos a week, which necessitates them being quicker to edit and therefore shorter. There has been a good string of weeks where I've been able to get 3 videos up. However, something that you might notice is that my upload schedule has been a little bit more lax over July and will continue into August, purely because I'm just very, very busy. I have my show, which is currently ongoing, and things have really ramped up for that. I'm also on committee for my musical theatre society, and it's always the month of show that is the busiest heaviest workload for me. Work is also getting busy because I work as a book publicist, and our biggest books tend to come out in September. We tend to work about 3 months ahead of the publication date for books, so you can imagine right now is very, very busy for me. And also I'm going on a holiday with my family in August, and you know, there isn't going to be a chance for me to sit down and film while I'm on holiday. So basically my rule for July and August is kind of, you get videos when you get them. No schedule, just vibes. But I am pleased with myself for having been able to do 3 videos a week for multiple weeks this year. Very pleased with that. One that I'm definitely not doing is monthly reading sprints. In fact, I've not done any reading sprints apart from the, you know, live in-person ones that Katie over at Books and Things did with my fellow booktubers back in May. Doing monthly booktuber recommendations videos. Yes, I am doing that. It's my booktube rewind series. Very much enjoying that, and you guys seem to really be enjoying them too. DNFing more and making more use of the library, Kindle or audio, rather than bought print books. Guess kind of yes or no. Library has definitely gone down, but I am definitely using more ebook and audiobook options than I was before. Buy fewer physical books and more from the library. I mean, I'm doing some, but probably can't tick this one off. And then videos that I wanted to make, like the Shakespeare depictions, ongoing. So some goals I am succeeding on, some that I'm not, and I don't think I want to edit any of them. Maybe the reading sprints is not really realistic, but you know what, I'm quite happy with those goals as they are. So there we go, those are my answers to my little mishmash of the mid-year book freakout tag and the 6 down, 6 to go tag. Do let me know about any of your answers to these questions and any books that you would recommend that you've read in the first 6 months of this year. I would love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic, fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.